Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode 3, as a matter of fact, of Access Channel Comics. I'm your host, D Banks, Corey Banks, coming at you live. And today we're going to cover the television side of comic books, and that's the DC television universe. Some things that happened this week. DC is back in full effect with their television shows. With 3 of their big shows, that is. DC has a lot of television shows out. It's very good. Of course, you have The Flash, which is new this week. Arrow, DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Gotham was not new this week. Supergirl is season is over at the moment. But you got a lot of other shows, but you may not know some of the other imprints from the Vertigo imprint. Of course, iZombie, the season's over right now. Lucifer. Preacher is coming to AMC. That is another off the Vertigo imprint of DC Comics. So today we're going to primarily focus on the 3 DC shows I like to call the big 3. And that is The Flash, Arrow, and DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Wanted to start off talking about The Flash. The Flash was a very good episode this week. I really enjoyed it. It was a episode to where we're picking up from where Barry lost his powers from last week. Not necessarily lost, but gave up his powers to Zoom. Zoom actually incorporated a pretty good deal. And sometimes that's what supervillains do. He actually had kidnapped Wally West, son of Joe West and brother of Iris West. And, of course, Barry cares about the family dearly. And so didn't want to see anything, happen to Wally. And so that's where we're getting now. So moving right along, the episode opened up with Barry, without his superpowers, about to get out of bed. He's probably so used to now just sprinting out of bed. Doesn't take him that long to do whatever he got to do and get ready for his day. But today he was finding out for the first time in a long time he's going to have to do things the old school way. And that's the human being way. So he just couldn't just jump up, sprint up, and be the Flash. His powers are gone. And throughout the episode, it was a very good, solid episode, I think. And that's one of the things about the Flash. He's a relatable superhero. He's the type of guy, to where his origin back in the day, even before my time. And I would advise anyone who wants to learn more about the Flash to read up on him. You don't have to read a whole comic book or a novel or anything. Sometimes you can go on Google and read about these characters. In the 1950s, the late great Julius Schwartz revitalized comic books. He revolutionized comic books. He not only saved DC Comics, he saved even Marvel Comics. A lot of things back then. Marvel was known as Timely, and before the transition over to Marvel, but the comic book industry is like the economy. It goes up and down. It has its highs, it has its midpoints, it has its lows, and I just feel like the episode led to a lot of good points. And one of the things about the Flash is that he's so remarkable as a character because he gets to do something that a lot of other characters and we are not able to do in real life. He did get to go back and have closure with his mom. If you go back to last season when he planned on saving his mom, which was a great notion, who wouldn't want their mom back? However, he was informed if you do this, a lot of things are going to change in reality. Someone else could lose their mom. Someone else could lose, you could lose someone else in life. It could be like a ripple effect. And that's the thing about the Flash. Now, going back from the topic of Julius Schwartz revitalized the comic book industry. The original Flash, Jay Garrick, is a name that you're familiar with now from the television show. And for you casual viewers who may not watch the show, if you start watching the show, you'll learn about a character named Jay Garrick, a very highly respected character, the very original Flash, who was a good man. But on the show, his name has been dragged through the mud now, very similar to what happened, if you think about it, what Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, did to Dr. Wells, the original Dr. Wells from last season. Even in our reality, we're used to seeing Dr. Wells kill Barry Allen's mom, Nora Allen. In our reality, however, he didn't. Eobard Thawne, disguised as Dr. Wells, did that. And now you have Hunter Zolomon putting on the moniker of Jay Garrick. And it wasn't Jay really, you know, and that's something to be said. It's kind of like identity theft in a way. And But what happened was Julius Schwartz took these characters when comics was at a low and said, in that era is the big science age. He took and presented a new Flash, a new Green Lantern, a new Hawkman, a new Atom, to where the Flash was no longer in the comics Jay Garrick. At that point, it became Barry Allen, the quintessential Flash and the greatest Flash of all time. The Green Lantern was no longer Alan Scott. It was Hal Jordan, the greatest Green Lantern of all time. And here we are today. And Hawkman was changed. His background was changed. The Atom and a lot of these other heroes and rebooted things. And that's what happened again many years later with the title called Justice League, The Flashpoint Paradox. It's based off of a book. Great book, by the way. And it's also based off the animation series that I had playing behind me. That is streaming on Netflix right now. You can also pick it up on Blu-ray and DVD. It's even streaming on YouTube. It's a great story. It's my favorite story out of the DC animations. And of all the animations, that says a lot because there's a lot of animations I really like. The story is about Barry Allen. He winds up on an alternate universe, an alternate world, parallel to his own, but there are some differences. On this world where he is, no one knows about the Flash. The Flash is unheard of. Everyone's like, who is a Flash? And he doesn't exist in that world. Superman landed on that world, but he wasn't discovered by the Kents. He was discovered by the government. They locked him away. No one knows about a Superman. Batman on this earth is another person. You may know he is Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne. On that night in the alley when the story everyone knows about, when the gunshots went off, they didn't kill the Waynes, they killed Bruce Wayne. The Waynes did survive. Thomas Wayne set out on the path that became the Batman. But the twist is, his wife Martha, Bruce's mother, went insane and became the Joker in this world. So it's some very big differences in this. In this story, Barry ran so fast that he combined all of the universes. The DC Universe, Vertigo, and Wildstorm. And that's what created the new DC 52. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this story up is you see some inspirations of that this season in The Flash with time travel. In this particular episode, when we get towards the end, you're going to see the inspiration of what I'm talking about, where it inspires this episode, because Barry, keep in mind, he's lost his powers. In the Flashpoint Paradox, he doesn't have powers on the world. The way in the Flashpoint Paradox he got his powers back was with the help of Thomas Wayne. Thomas Wayne wasn't sure about this. He said, "Are you crazy?" Barry was put in a chair and wanted the lightning to strike him again. Now let's go back to season 1 of The Flash, the live-action television show. Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, who was at that time just known as the Arrow, was on the pilot episode of The Flash. He told Barry he doesn't really believe he got struck by lightning. He believed that lightning chose Barry. And in many ways, that is true. In this episode, you saw how Barry had to go once again without his powers. He had to take on a villain who was aging. And even though this villain was aging, the villain was getting stronger, and Barry was at times no match for him. That brings us to Earth 2, where Barry's power has gone. It is with Hunter Zolomon, Zoom. Zoom at this point is more powerful than ever. He's no longer dying, he's no longer sick, because kind of in a way he's been cured. He has Barry's speed, something that he always wanted. That's where the whole build-up has been. He's taken Caitlin hostage, and she's locked up. And now, interesting thing, we finally get to see Caitlin do something she didn't get to do, and vice versa, earlier this season, and that is she meets her doppelganger, Killer Frost. Now, for those of you who not know what a doppelganger is your opposite, is another version of you. The person may look exactly like you, may even share the same name as you, but your backstories are kind of different. As you see, as Caitlin and Killer Frost got into a discussion, their backstories are pretty similar, and they both lost their Ronnies. Their mothers, as they described, were the same. But Caitlin is more honorable, more professional, more established. She didn't allow herself to go to the dark side. If you go back to season 1, Daya Pennebaker's character, Caitlin, she was in a way cold, but not evil cold. She was just resistant because she lost Ronnie. Understand? It's like she said, Her smile is the way it was. She had the right to look that way. Killer Frost, on the other hand, went to a verge where she did go to that dark side. It's kind of like Batman. Many people sometimes say it's because of Batman these criminals came out. I beg to differ. Bruce Wayne sat on the path of being Batman because that's the way he knew how to handle it. He didn't go to set out beating people up. He went on to take on crime. He know he couldn't stop it, but he went on to take it on. He could have easily became the Joker. He could have easily became Two-Face or the Penguin, using his riches for that matter, or became Hush, but he decided to stay on the path of good and fight crime. And that's what the situation is with Danielle Panabaker's character version of Caitlin Snow. But the other version of Doppelganger, as you see, she didn't go that route. And here's the thing about supervillains. Killer Frost is a supervillain. There have been different females who have taken on the mantle of Killer Frost. This particular version, though, let's just say, for example, Captain Cold was in this situation. Captain Cold is at times, of course, known as a villain. He's on the Flash's Rogues Gallery villain, the gimmick villains. But remember, Flash's Rogues Gallery is different from a lot of other superheroes' Rogues Gallery. Their Rogues Gallery aren't really setting out to kill. They're just trying to make money. They're thieves. They're good at what they do. They're not even really wanting to kill the Flash. Do they want to humiliate him at times, slow him down, whatever, hurt him? Yes, but not really kill him. If Captain Cold would have been in a situation where he would have had to work, say like with Caitlin or Barry or whomever, he would have actually worked with them in order to get to that light at the end of the tunnel and get out of there. Even if that would have mean, like, for example, rescuing the person who he's the enemy with in order to get him to where he needs to go. See, that's what makes villains like those at times anti-heroes and make them so well established and intelligent. Because, hey, if I got to take this person with me to survive, I will do that. And plus, they're going by no code of honor. And to jump to another story, but not to get to too many stories, like in Justice God Among Us, Batman in that world called on the services of Flash's Rogues Gallery because he knew they had an honor of no killing. So he could trust them at least on that behalf. But see, where Killer Frost falls in a huge failure for her in that department is she was just already planning to kill Caitlin off as soon as she get out. And sometimes that's where villains really fail miserably at. If she maybe would have worked with Caitlin to get out, she may would have made it out. She had to think Zoom is more powerful and faster than ever. She knew Zoom was coming. However, Killer Frost is very intelligent. She realized that Zoom was keeping her around because she reminded him of Caitlin. And at this point, Hunter Zolomon has fallen in love with Caitlin. He does have some of that humanity left in him when it comes to Caitlin, that is. But of course, as you saw in the episode when she said that out loud, Zoom's keeping me around because I remind him of you. Of course, he appears. He heard that. He actually phased through Caitlin when Killer Frost was going to kill her, and he caught the icicle and he said, you're right. I don't need you anymore. And he killed off Killer Frost. Maybe that was going to happen eventually, but it may not if Killer Frost would have thought ahead better. But that's sometimes what happens with the supervillain. But it's very twisted. Keep in mind, Caitlin is grateful to be alive, but she is by no form appreciative of Zoom killing Killer Frost because it's still a human being. And he was like, you should be thankful, for me doing that. She was going to kill you. And all Caitlin wants to do is go home. The man in the iron mask, he really knew that's why he was beating on the glass. He knew Killer Frost was going to turn on her. We're still wondering who this man in the iron mask is. It will be revealed later on. We just have to be patient. I kind of have my suspicions. I've been trying to take tweaks and pieces in the mask. It very looks like, from the eyes, a doppelganger of Wally West, but it's just you can't really say. I'm glad my theories is right. Who the real Dr. Wells was in season 1 when I told a lot of my friends and say you were right. It turned out to be Von Thawne. He was Dr. Wells. But this one I'm kind of up in the air. So if anybody has any suggestions, I would love to hear them. Put them in the comments below. I would love to hear your theories on them. But now Jay is setting out to go conquer other worlds, and he said, you want to go home? And so he's, Earth 2 has gotten boring to him. And see, that's what he's going to do. He's going to tirade. And, I don't think necessarily Caitlin is going to turn or become a new version of Killer Frost, but she's going to be heartbroken. Caitlin has been through a lot. You think about she lost Ronnie. She was kidnapped last season by Gorilla Grodd, or was it this season? It was earlier this season by Gorilla Grodd, and now by Zoom. It is very risky. Then you come to the side villain of the episode. Don't really know a lot about this villain, and but he's a very interesting villain. Where the night of the particle accelerator that Dr. Wells from Earth One had created, the night that had exploded, Barry wound up getting his powers, and so many other metahumans were born. This guy wound up getting hit with the accelerator, but he was able to become stronger. Talking about like a Superman type thing where he could stand and stop a bus. At first, like he said, he thought it was fun, but then he realized it wasn't. Looking in the mirror, he noticed he was aging. And just last week, he was a little boy. Now he's, a teenager. Now he's growing, to nearly 30-something, 40 years old. Just like that, he knew what was coming. So when he kidnapped Dr. Wells, that was a thing. And the funny thing about that was, he thought it was Dr. Wells from Earth 1. And see, that's the thing. Barry knows about Earth 1, Earth 2. Dr. Wells from Earth 2 does. Caitlin, Cisco, Joe, Iris, Jesse. A few others. Of course, Zoom knows. But other people don't know. They still don't know. When they see this Dr. Wells, just like Patty did, they're still thinking this is Dr. Wells, the one that they know. And it goes to show an effect. We even come in reality, we're thinking Dr. Wells killed Nora Allen. In our reality, didn't. It was Eobon Thawne disguised as Dr. Wells. Remember the whole season he was wearing his meat sack, the actual body he had killed off Dr. Wells, who was a good man. And this version, this Dr. Wells is a good man, impatient, but he'd do anything to protect his daughter. And right when Dr. Wells was about to explain it to the guy, he was just like, you know what? What's the point? This guy has no clue about Earth 1, Earth 2, probably won't believe me. And so it is what it is. So he bought some time. But you see what happened with the guy. The Flash took him on. And Flash had to pretend like he had his powers. But it wasn't easy. Some of those hits that Flash took, he definitely could have took him as the Flash, but it was tough. But the guy timed out, wound up, looked like the heart attack thing kicked in and stuff. But it goes to show you where these powers, they can be looked at as a blessing or a curse. I do believe Barry's is most certainly a blessing. And this is where the inspirations of Flashpoint comes in. On next week's episode, you saw in the preview, and if you haven't seen them, stream them up here on YouTube. It's very interesting. Dr. Wells says, Barry, I'm going to help you get your powers back. Because he said, even though, he always felt like, he just really wasn't, Dr. Wells felt like, still he wasn't redeemed. But you see, he's trying to do the right thing. So Barry's like, how you can get my powers back? He said, by creating another particle accelerator. And when they showed that, Barry synced up to it and the lightning's coming down in the next episode. I said, there got some inspirations of the Flashpoint Paradox there. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see Superman hidden. I'm not saying you're going to see Thomas Wayne's version of Batman. I'm not saying that. But they can borrow those inspirations from that, and it's genius. I love that. And so John Wesley Shipp's character is going to come back, great appearance by him, the 1990s Flash. And he's going to be like, hey, this could kill my son. But it's like, you can tell from the expression he understands. And the Flashpoint Paradox, this is where it's inspired from. The Flashpoint Paradox, Barry is sitting in his chair. And Thomas, all right, he presses the button and the lightning comes down. And it's storming outside. It's storming outside, and so it connects and it burns him to a crisp. 3rd degree burns. And so, Thomas, of course, being a doctor and practicing a long time, but still he knew his skills. He actually helped, Barry, get bandaged up and everything. But Barry wanted to do it again. And Thomas was like, you should be put in Arkham for this. And I have to agree, but Barry said, I can take this. We got to do it till it works. Second time was a charm. It worked. He got his powers back. He was healed. He even was able to montage the suit. It was Professor Zoom's suit, that is, to get it back to the Flash suit. And it was so powerful, the explosion the second time, Batman went over the rail. And Flash so fast and caught him because he was about to go over the spike fence. And so Barry was like, I told you I was fast. He even had his whiskey bottle, Tanica thing. And it was pretty cool. And I can see this where the inspiration this is going. And I think it is a good direction. The Flash, the show, in my opinion, is the best superhero television show out. And It has not disappointed me yet, and I feel like they keep on the right path to doing what they're doing. It will not disappoint me, and I really enjoy The Flash. And this week's episode was a very good episode, and I look very forward to next week and talking about this some more next week. Next up is Arrow. Arrow is a show where I have enjoyed Arrow for a number of years now. But I will admit, this season, some people had some complaints about last season. I really didn't, in a sense. I understand it was changing some things. Sometimes that's how shows are. You know, they change things for a reason. But the gripes for me this season, it was kind of more of a soap opera between he and Felicity. I just really felt like it was okay at first, but it played out fast. And it was kind of like, to me in this episode, Arrow and Team Arrow got back to the basics. They got focused on the mission. It was great to see Felicity once again. I'm on it. She's at the computer. Her and Oliver was looking at each other and, I'm mad at you, or I'm not doing this, or whatever. It wasn't any of that. It was focused on the mission. Oliver was focused. There was not a lot of joking or playing, and that's the Oliver I'm used to on this television show, and I loved it. Dig, on the other hand, Dig is the one who keeps it together on that team. He's really the heart and soul of that team to me. But this episode, he lost it. You know, he was really going to take Dark's wife out, and Green Arrow came in, but it was a great piece of acting from David Ramsey, who was an incredible actor. And you got to think about what he's been through. His brother turned on him and the team, possibly causing Laurel's death. He lost Laurel. They became close, he and Laurel. And also, you must think that he's still, you know, his wife and daughter are protected, but still has them on his mind, and rightfully so. But it was great to see them regroup and all of them get back focused. The young lady who played the new version of Black Canary in the television show, she actually had guest starred on Supernatural a few times. And it was ironic because her father, the guy who played her father in Supernatural, he played in Man of Steel. So some DC Supernatural connections right there with Warner Brothers. And she really fit in the costume well to me. You know, filled it out very well. She reminded me a lot of Sarah when Sarah first appeared as the Canary. You know, the build she had, you know, and everything. You know, and Katie Cassidy, who is one of my favorites also. Katie Cassidy, I remember she used to play on Smallville also as one of the versions of Ruby. But it's great how Katie's character grew. But I did think they was going to keep her around. I didn't expect for her to kill her off, because I said she's going to become that Black Canary that we know. I said she had her struggles fighting. She's gotten better. And she still has some of her struggles. But I think my next season should probably take that. But because, you know, Black Canary in the mythology is one of the best fighters in all of comics. Not just DC, all of comics. Batman would love to have her by his side anytime in a fight. She's that technical. She can take on the best of them in a technical fight. There are only a few that can hang with her in a technical fight. Lady Shiva being one of them. But Black Canary, her hand-to-hand combatant skills, she can take down men. She's been trained by Wildcat. Just how, you know, like what it shows, she trained with Batman and so many others in training. And in the mythology, she came from Earth 2 to move over to Earth 1, and she joined the Justice League. Now, for those who you may not know, Katie Cassidy will be returning, but she will be doing guest star appearances on The Flash. She will be playing another version of herself, but it will be the Black Siren, you know, instead. She will be playing from Earth 2. She will actually be a metahuman. You know, as Laurel Lance, the Black Canary, she was still a human being, but they did more with the collar Cisco designed for her. She's had that in some other variations too. She wasn't a metahuman, but this version, when you see her, she will be a metahuman. She will not have anything to do with the Laurel Lance who just passed away. May know nothing of her, or may not ever get to know anything of her, unless she may come across Oliver or something like that, or one of the crew, one of the team. Flash may wind up letting her know, or something like that. And this episode was a very good, solid episode. I really liked it, how they got back down to basics with Arrow. The funny thing, though, is if you caught at the end of the episode, towards the end, Barry shows up. It was great to see Barry like always, but the one gripe about it is he had his powers there. And that was funny. I was like, you could tell they shot this episode before. And I said, okay, he didn't have his powers last night on Tuesday, but he has his powers now. So that was kind of a slip up right there. But still, you know, for me, I overlook those things. As long as it's different if he had them until the whole entire episode, unless they're letting you know such and such time before. They're letting you know that ahead of time. But overall, great episode. Damien Dark didn't play a role in this, but in a way he did, but he wasn't there. Damien Dark is a very powerful villain, and the incredible thing is the actor who plays O'Neill McDowell. You may also recognize him for so many things, but he actually voiced Green Arrow before in the DC Showcase. I know it was attached on Superman, Shazam, Return of Black Adam, and the DC short stories. That was some of the other showcases. And he plays Damien Dark, which is a very credible villain. The only thing about a Damien Dark and the Purple Man on Jessica Jones also, I like them as villains, but sometimes I get a little bit bored with them as villains because they're so powerful. You have to have someone who can counter what they do. You got a guy who has magic and can just stop a person like that in a heartbeat, to stop weapons. You have another guy who can tell you what to do if he's at close range to you. So it's kind of like with Superman, what they said, Superman's so powerful, sometimes they run out of stories to tell with him, but the one thing that makes Superman so great is if you get people on par with him, it can make for some incredible stories, incredible fights and all. Of course it's great to see Batman take down people, but it's great to see someone worthy of Batman fighting skill like a Bane or Deathstroke. But and that's the thing about villains such as these. That's why it was so great to see Vixen in the episode when she came up. For many of you who may not know who Vixen is, she's an African American superheroine, part of a Justice League team member. To learn more about her, streaming on Netflix right now is Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. If you pick up on Justice League Unlimited, she comes into the fold. She was actually created back in the late 70s or early 80s, if I'm not mistaken, and she got her own title. But around that time, it had gotten canceled, never really got released. She did become part of the Justice League, and she also has on the CW Seed website has the animation shorts, where sometimes she teams up with Green Arrow and the Flash, and that's why all of a sudden in the live action episode, Vixen and I had animated, episodes together. He kind of gave it as a head nod like that. Vixen, to bring it more to your casual audience, a lot of you may remember the character Brave Star, Marshall Brave Star. Cowboy cartoon that used to come on way back in the 80s, like 1989. He had the powers of Hawk, the Puma, and Bear. She's similar to like that with her token, which is very cool. And she's a phenomenal character. And the actors who played her, I really enjoyed. She did a great job. And hopefully they'll be bringing her back, and I think they will. It was great to see her show up and take on Dark, because she really surprised Dark. She didn't totally take him down, but she gave him a run for his money. And vice versa. And it was just great to see something refreshing like that. And to me, you have to have that balance at times. You don't want a good guy just running over every bad guy. It gets boring. Same thing, vice versa. But it's good when you can, have that balance in between. So I really enjoyed that episode, and I look very forward to seeing more of where Arrow goes this season. And so I would really, like for them to keep it. And the tone is great to see Team Arrow back in effect and back on the case. Then that brings us on to Thursday night, DC's Legends of Tomorrow. What can I say about the show? I really enjoyed this show also. This has been fascinating. It's something about teams that don't belong together that really makes things work where they do belong together. You go back to the old days of the Dirty Dozen. You go to even DC's Suicide Squad, which the movie comes out this coming August. Look very forward to that. And the thing about these teams is it's just great because they don't belong together, but they bring humor, they bring wit. They bring drama, they bring action, all that stuff. They may not get along, but they will have each other's back. Let's just be honest. No one ever thought Captain Cold and Heatwave would go along with this, but they have, and you see the humanity even in them. And that's a great thing. I'm glad, Heatwave did decide to go back with the team. But this episode, you met Vandal Savage's daughter. And she was a great character. I really enjoyed her. And it seemed like they was going to go into the way, she was just going to keep going with what her father says. But she came to find out that her father was a tyrant. When Leonard Snart, Captain Cold, asked Gideon to show her the video, she found it out. And she was it's kind of like being brought up on something and you weren't told the truth. And you become old enough to know and you're told that, you're really angry. You want to slap someone for not telling you the truth. That's kind of how she was with Vandal Savage. And she reminded me of Nessa Al Ghul a lot. Ra's al Ghul, big baddie of Arrow Season 3. And a lot of you may know from the Batman mythos and Batman Begins. The character has two daughters, Talia al Ghul and Nissa al Ghul. Talia can be a tyrant, very similar to Ra's at times, but Nessa is more honorable. And that's why it was so beautiful and great to see Nessa play the Samaritan of Peace. She was honoring Laurel in this week's episode of Arrow. She was there to even comfort the Lance. She was, Laura's father. She was there to even check on Oliver. And it was great to see that. And she was at the homegoing service. And Nessa, is an honorable person. She disbanded the league. Don't get me wrong, I want to see her suit up again in the future, but do it more with an honorable style, which I believe she will. And to me, that's how Vandal Savage's daughter is. She loves her father, I think, but she doesn't. She said, I didn't sign up for this. And, going back in the episode, seeing where Mick, Heatwave asked Kendra, can you look this man in the eye and kill him? And she said yes, but he said, it was like, we'll see. When it came to the point, she really couldn't. It was for a couple of reasons. Kendra was not really a killer. She had to, I believe. But she was really not so hesitant in taking on Vandal this time. She's learned some lessons. She really took it to him. With her mace, that can disrupt magic, and that can really hurt Vandal Savage. And she really took it to him, but when it came to it, she found out Carter was the guy behind the mask. And like Vandal said, if you kill me, his mind is to be wiped. He wouldn't know who you or anyone is. And that's when you see that love and compassion come in for him again. Rip said, hey, if you don't kill him, I'll lose my wife and son. But she couldn't bring herself to do it. And here's the issue, the one issue I had with Legends Tomorrow. With Kendra, as beautiful as she is, Jackson's about to fall for her, and Ray did. She has to remember, Carter is going to come back. And I just feel like she's going to break so many hearts, even if she gets a good steam with these guys, because when your reincarnated lover comes back, you're going to go off him. That's what happened. It was different with Cisco when she first appeared on The Flash, but that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that, beware of it, guys. You got to be careful there. Kendra's beautiful. She's a great person, but there's some mix-up right there. I love the fight scene that Adam had as Giant Adam. It's funny because, Adam's counterpart, he's with DC. His counterpart in Marvel is Ant-Man. Two phenomenal characters. Really enjoying both. Two of my favorites. But it's pretty cool. We got to see Adam's shrink before the Ant-Man movie come out. We also got to see Adam grew up as a giant before we even get to see Ant-Man do that. And the rumor he's supposed to do in the Captain America Civil War, don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Look forward to that. But it's appropriate. Adam was created first. He was brought out before Ant-Man, at least. And, it was great to see Jackson encourage him on when Adam was knocked out. Like he was defeated. It was kind of like Mickey getting in Rocky's ear on Creed when Rocky was letting Adonis know, you just only stop yourself as you. And that's what's so great about this team. They always have each other's back. And that was another great part of this episode. The writing on these shows are phenomenal. And I think with, if I'm not mistaken, Mark Guggenheim and those guys, they do a great job with these television shows. I think they have really done a great job to bring up Supergirl also. Her show has gotten better. And it's so phenomenal. Even though different people work on Gotham, still, it's the DC universe. These shows have really gotten very good. Gotham, first season, was probably more comic booky, but I really like the second season, how they grounded it and making it so much more interesting. You see Bruce growing up, getting those skills, implementing World's Greatest Detective. You see where he's headed in the future. So that's the great thing about these shows. And with DC, my hat goes off to them because they're doing something so beautiful, like what Marvel is doing in the movies. A beautiful shared universe. They're giving people what they want to see. It's understandable sometimes you can't have everything what you want to see, but we're getting these things. Whoever thought we would have seen this, years ago? We were kids. We didn't have exactly like this. And so that's some phenomenal stuff. And so I'm really enjoying that. And I just want to know what a lot of you think about what DC is doing with their television shows. Do you think they should combine universes with their movies? My take on that is this. I think they should and they should not. I think at first right now they're better off not doing that because sometimes your hands are tied. There are a lot of things on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. To go over that show, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., when I first saw it, I really wasn't into it. I didn't really like what I see. It was kind of dull to me, but the show got better. I tuned in later on the second season. It got way better. I enjoyed it. They were able to start doing more, but the problem is sometimes they can't do certain things on that show because their hands are tied. Because they're tied in with the movie universe, and you don't want to do certain things to spoil the big movies. So that's understandable. So that's where DC Fare is better at with their television shows. However, I really do want to see Grant Gustin in the Justice League movie as the Flash. Make some type of appearance as the Flash. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad Ezra Miller looks pretty cool. There's been some things he got the ponytail. I don't think he's just going to have the ponytail. He's cut his hair in the film of Justice League. I think that was for probably something. He was working on another role, and they had to get him in for Batman v Superman to make that appearance. But I think Ezra Miller can pull it off, but he's going to have a tough act to follow because Grant Gustin is very beloved as the Flash, and I think they've done a phenomenal job with the Flash TV show. I would love to see Grant Gustin. You got these Speed Force. You can see he and Ezra Miller, they're running and they come across each other. That would be phenomenal. I would love to see that. Warner Brothers, call me. I can write some stuff for you, but for DC Comics, but phenomenal to see. And so I'd love to see forward where it's going, and it's going to be tremendously awesome. What I want to do is let you know what I'll be doing is loading up Access Channel Comics on every Tuesday and Saturday. So make sure to tune in this coming Tuesday. Gonna have an episode where I want to discuss the Marvel side of things. So I didn't forget about Marvel, of course not. And that's Captain America Civil War, and it's coming out next weekend. Coming out on Friday. Look very forward to it. So I'm going to go check that out and look very forward to that and see where it's going. So I'm going to go over some Marvel things. It's going to be mainly dedicated to Marvel coming up on Tuesday, and but to see where things are going. And that'll be it for this episode today. Subscribe to this video. Put your comments at the bottom. Look very forward to seeing you again. Thanks for having me today. Very great seeing you today. Remember, there are many, there are few, but Access Channel Comics, there are none like you. Peace.